Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. Today, I want you to look carefully at the title on your screen. You will notice three very important phrases. The first is Corporate Wisdom Index. The second is Capability Intelligence. And the third is Workforce Transformation. These three ideas together form the foundation of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Now traditionally, organizations have focused heavily on training. They conduct workshops. They organize learning sessions. They invest in certifications. They build learning management systems. But despite all this effort, many organizations still struggle with execution gaps, leadership immaturity, poor alignment, low accountability, and capability fragmentation. This is because organizations are developing skills, but not necessarily developing wisdom. And there is a very important difference between skill and wisdom. Skills help people perform tasks. Wisdom helps organizations make aligned decisions, adapt to disruption, develop mature leadership, and create long-term transformation capability. That is why AugusTalent is not positioning itself as a traditional training company. Instead, we are building a Capability Intelligence and Workforce Transformation ecosystem. An ecosystem that integrates leadership intelligence, organizational maturity, capability architecture, KP3 and KP4 business transformation, ESG readiness, competency systems, behavioral intelligence, and workforce evolution. As we move through this webinar, you will slowly see how all these components connect together into one integrated architecture. So let us begin by understanding the real problem organizations are facing globally today. Now let us carefully look at the question on this slide. Why do organizations still struggle despite massive investments into learning and development? You can see on the screen several areas where organizations spend enormous amounts of money. Training investments, leadership development initiatives, HR transformation programs, learning platforms, certifications, digital transformation systems. And yet, despite all these investments, many organizations continue to face execution failure, low leadership maturity, weak succession pipelines, poor collaboration, high employee disengagement, and inconsistent business performance. So the question becomes, what exactly is missing? The answer is shown at the bottom of the slide. Most organizations measure skills, but very few organizations measure corporate wisdom. Now what does this actually mean? Skills are important, but skills alone do not guarantee transformation. An employee may possess technical skills, but still lack decision maturity, behavioral discipline, leadership intelligence, systems thinking, execution capability, or transformation readiness. Similarly, organizations may have training programs, but still lack alignment, adaptability, organizational learning maturity, or capability integration. This is where the idea of corporate wisdom becomes extremely important. Corporate wisdom is the collective intelligence of an organization to make aligned decisions, execute effectively, develop mature leadership, adapt continuously, and transform sustainably. And this realization becomes the foundation for everything you will see in the next slides. Because before we discuss solutions, we first need to understand the scale of the global capability problem. Now, let us look carefully at the problems listed on this slide. These are not isolated issues. They are deeply interconnected organizational capability problems. The first challenge is leadership capability gaps. Many organizations have managers, but not enough transformational leaders. The second challenge is execution failure. Organizations create strategies, but struggle to convert strategy into disciplined execution. Then we see low transformation readiness. Many companies want change, but their culture, leadership systems, and workforce capability are not prepared for transformation. Next comes poor capability mapping. Organizations often do not clearly understand what competencies exist, what competencies are missing, and what future capabilities are required. We also see weak succession pipelines. Many organizations are not preparing future leaders systematically. Then comes cultural misalignment. Departments operate in silos. Values are inconsistent. Behaviors are disconnected from strategy. And one of the biggest problems globally today is learning without business impact. Organizations conduct training, but cannot measure behavioral change, execution improvement, or return on learning investment. Then we see ESG confusion, revenue leakage, competency fragmentation, and disconnected workforce systems. Now, if you observe carefully, all these problems are actually symptoms of one deeper issue. Organizations are lacking capability intelligence. And this is the turning point of the webinar. Because the future does not belong to organizations that simply conduct training programs. The future belongs to organizations that can continuously measure, evolve, and transform their collective capability systems. That is exactly where the AugusTalent ecosystem begins. Now that we understand the global capability problem, let us move toward the solution. Please look carefully at the title on this slide. Corporate Wisdom Index. Or simply, CWI. This is not designed as another survey. It is not another engagement tool. And it is not another generic assessment platform. The Corporate Wisdom Index is designed as a unified enterprise intelligence framework. Now let us examine the different dimensions visible on the screen. The first dimension is leadership wisdom. This measures the maturity of leadership thinking, alignment, accountability, decision-making, and strategic capability. The second dimension is workforce wisdom. This focuses on workforce readiness, capability alignment, adaptability, collaboration, and behavioral maturity. Next is execution wisdom. Many organizations create strategy. Very few execute consistently. Execution wisdom measures the organization's ability to convert intent into disciplined action. Then we have transformation wisdom. This evaluates how prepared an organization is to adapt, evolve, and sustain change. Next comes capability wisdom. This focuses on competency systems, skill maturity, capability mapping, and future workforce architecture. Then we move into ESG wisdom. This measures sustainability ownership, governance maturity, ethical capability, and long-term responsible transformation. We also measure organizational wisdom, learning wisdom, revenue wisdom, and employability wisdom. Now, what is important here is not the individual components. The real power lies in integration. Because organizations do not fail in isolated departments. Organizations fail when intelligent systems become disconnected. The Corporate Wisdom Index is designed to create a connected intelligence architecture. And this architecture becomes the foundation of the entire AugusTalent ecosystem. At this point, an important question naturally arises. What exactly do we mean by corporate wisdom? Please observe the definition displayed on the screen. Corporate wisdom is an organization's collective capability to make aligned decisions, execute strategy effectively, develop future-ready talent, build leadership maturity, sustain behavioral excellence, adapt to disruption, and create long-term business resilience. Now let us break this down carefully. The first phrase is aligned decisions. Many organizations suffer not because people are incapable, but because decisions across departments are disconnected. Corporate wisdom creates alignment. The next phrase is execute strategy effectively. A strategy on paper has no value unless the organization possesses execution capability. Then comes develop future-ready talent. Today the workforce landscape is changing rapidly. Artificial intelligence, automation, ESG expectations, and digital transformation are reshaping industries. Organizations need future capability architecture. Next is leadership maturity. Leadership today is no longer about authority alone. It requires systems thinking, emotional intelligence, adaptability, transformation capability, and mentoring wisdom. We then move into behavioral excellence. Technical capability alone cannot sustain organizations. Behavioral maturity is equally critical. Finally, corporate wisdom includes adaptability, resilience, and transformation continuity. This is why AugusTalent is focusing not merely on learning. We are focusing on organizational capability evolution. And as we move forward, you will see how this philosophy translates into frameworks, diagnostics, maturity systems, assessments, transformation architecture, and professional evolution systems. Now, let us compare traditional training models with the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the comparison table visible on the screen. On the left side, you will notice the traditional learning and training approach. On the right side, you will see how the AugusTalent ecosystem is positioned very differently. Let us go point by point. The first comparison is workshops versus capability architecture. Traditional learning systems primarily conduct workshops. A session is delivered. Participants attend. Certificates are issued. And the process ends. But AugusTalent focuses on capability architecture. This means we do not simply conduct sessions. We build interconnected systems of competency, behavior, leadership, execution, workforce readiness, and organizational maturity. The next comparison is learning hours versus transformation readiness. Most organizations measure how many hours of learning happened. But learning hours alone do not guarantee transformation. An organization may complete thousands of learning hours and still suffer from poor accountability, weak leadership, low execution capability, and cultural fragmentation. That is why AugusTalent focuses on transformation readiness. Meaning, how prepared is the organization to evolve, adapt, execute, and sustain change? The third comparison is feedback forms versus KP3 and KP4 impact. Traditionally, training effectiveness is measured through feedback forms. Participants rate content, trainer quality, engagement, and satisfaction. But satisfaction does not automatically create business impact. That is why the AugusTalent ecosystem integrates KP Level 3 and KP Level 4 systems. Meaning, behavioral transformation, live implementation projects, productivity improvement, leadership capability enhancement, and measurable business outcomes. The next comparison is trainers versus capability consultants. This is one of the most important shifts in the entire ecosystem. A traditional trainer usually delivers knowledge. But a capability consultant understands organizational gaps, competency systems, behavioral intelligence, transformation maturity, capability mapping, and business linkage. This means professionals inside the AugusTalent ecosystem evolve beyond facilitation. They evolve into transformation-oriented capability professionals. The next comparison is courses versus intelligence systems. Most learning platforms sell courses. But AugusTalent builds intelligence systems. Meaning, assessments, organizational diagnostics, capability analytics, leadership maturity systems, transformation frameworks, ESG intelligence, workforce capability architecture, and enterprise readiness models. The next comparison is generic learning versus enterprise diagnostics. Traditional learning is often generic. The same workshop is delivered everywhere. But organizations are not identical. Each organization has different leadership maturity, capability gaps, workforce culture, execution challenges, and transformation readiness levels. That is why AugusTalent integrates enterprise diagnostics. This includes capability assessments, organizational maturity systems, culture diagnostics, leadership analytics, revenue leakage heat maps, and transformation intelligence. And finally, we come to the last comparison. Content delivery versus organizational transformation. Traditional systems focus on delivering content. But content alone does not transform organizations. Transformation requires behavioral alignment, leadership maturity, capability integration, execution discipline, and organizational intelligence. That is why the AugusTalent ecosystem is not positioned as a training company, a coaching academy, or a certification institute. It is positioned as a capability intelligence and workforce transformation ecosystem. And now, naturally, the next question becomes, what are the intellectual frameworks powering this ecosystem? Let us move into the core architecture behind AugusTalent. Now we arrive at one of the most important visual representations in the entire AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the diagram carefully. At the center of the image, you will notice CWI, which stands for Corporate Wisdom Index. This central circle represents the intelligence core of the entire ecosystem. And surrounding the Corporate Wisdom Index, you will notice multiple interconnected capability domains. This is extremely important because organizations do not operate through isolated departments. Organizations function through interconnected intelligence systems. And whenever these systems become disconnected, organizations begin to experience execution gaps, leadership inconsistency, cultural fragmentation, revenue leakage, poor transformation readiness, and workforce misalignment. The Corporate Wisdom Index is designed to integrate all these critical organizational intelligence layers into one unified ecosystem. Now let us move around the diagram step by step. At the top of the visual, you will notice Organization Diagnostic. This represents the organization's ability to measure internal maturity, capability gaps, leadership readiness, workforce alignment, and transformation preparedness. Because transformation cannot begin without diagnostic clarity. Moving clockwise, the next area is Researched Frameworks. This includes the proprietary intellectual architecture developed inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Frameworks such as FIT, Olympus, Matrioska Organization, QuadPro Leadership, Temple's 12M, and other capability intelligence systems. These frameworks are not isolated theories. They are designed to function together as interconnected transformation architectures. Next, we move into Top Management Assessment. This is a very important capability layer. Many organizations attempt transformation without first understanding leadership maturity. But organizational capability always mirrors leadership capability. This assessment layer focuses on board readiness, decision intelligence, strategic alignment, leadership maturity, governance capability, and executive transformation readiness. Then we move into management books. Now this is a very strategic component of the ecosystem, because the books inside AugusTalent are not simply publications. They are intellectual infrastructure assets. Each book contributes frameworks, models, case studies, leadership systems, and transformation methodologies into the larger capability ecosystem. Next, we move into talent assessment. This layer focuses on competency intelligence, behavioral capability, workforce readiness, future talent architecture, and capability gap analysis. Because organizations cannot transform unless talent systems evolve systematically. Then we move into complement KP2 to KP4. This is one of the most unique areas of the ecosystem. Most learning systems deliver generic content. But AugusTalent focuses on context-driven capability transformation. Meaning, the organizational context is first understood, then learning architecture is customized, and finally transformation is measured through KP2, KP3, and KP4 frameworks. This creates measurable behavioral and business impact. Next, we move into Content for Peter Principle for Disruption. This area addresses a very serious modern organizational problem. Many professionals are promoted based on past performance, but struggle in future leadership complexity. This concept helps organizations prepare leaders for disruption, future complexity, and evolving capability expectations.
Then we arrive at TTT, Train the Trainer. This is not traditional trainer certification. Inside the AugusTalent ecosystem, TTT represents capability multiplication. It develops professionals beyond facilitation into consulting, diagnostics, transformation thinking, and capability architecture. Next, we move into talent development and training. This area focuses on competency building, behavioral transformation, leadership maturity, performance enhancement, and workforce capability evolution. Then we move into performance management. Because learning without performance integration creates no sustainable transformation. This layer integrates CHRO, KPI, balanced scorecard, KP4, and organizational productivity systems. And finally, we arrive at Gen Z management. This is increasingly becoming one of the most critical workforce challenges globally. Organizations today are managing a rapidly changing workforce mindset. This layer focuses on future workforce adaptation, Gen Z workplace readiness, behavioral alignment, digital work culture, and evolving leadership expectations. Now, if you step back and observe the entire diagram together, you will notice something very important. The Corporate Wisdom Index is not positioned as a training model, a consulting framework, or a learning platform. It is positioned as an integrated capability intelligence ecosystem. An ecosystem where diagnostics, leadership, frameworks, books, assessments, training, performance systems, future workforce readiness, and transformation intelligence all operate as interconnected organizational wisdom systems. And this becomes the foundation for the next slide, where we will now explore the deeper architecture and operational layers behind the Corporate Wisdom Index ecosystem.
Now let us move deeper into the operational architecture behind the Corporate Wisdom Index ecosystem. Please observe this visual carefully. Unlike the previous slide, which introduced the broader ecosystem, this slide explains how the ecosystem is actually structured internally. At the top center, you will once again notice CWI, Corporate Wisdom Index. And below it, the architecture begins dividing into three major intelligence layers. The first layer is organization. The second layer is individual assessment. And the third layer is talent development. This structure is extremely important because sustainable transformation requires alignment between organization systems, individual capability, and workforce development. Now let us begin from the left side. Under organization, we first see diagnostic tools. This includes board-level diagnostics, mystery shopping, customized prescriptions, and customized reports. These tools help organizations identify hidden capability gaps, operational risks, leadership weaknesses, customer experience issues, and execution vulnerabilities. Below that, we move into researched frameworks. And here you can see several proprietary systems including Matrioska organization, FIT, Temple's 12M, Olympus model, and ESG frameworks. Each framework addresses a different layer of organizational intelligence. Together, they create business framework intelligence. Now moving toward the center, we enter the individual assessment layer. This includes CEO assessment, HR assessment, and training assessment. Because transformation must begin with leadership capability visibility. Organizations often invest heavily in systems without understanding whether leadership maturity is aligned with transformation objectives. Next, we move into management books. And once again, these books are not positioned merely as publications. They are structured as capability development engines. You can see examples such as QuadPro Leadership, HR 2.0, Black Box, First Pencil, and ESG Leadership. Each book contributes practical transformation systems into the ecosystem. Now moving further right, we enter customized talent assessment. This includes Fit Assessment, 9-Box Assessment, and ProFit Olympus systems. These assessments help organizations evaluate talent maturity, future readiness, leadership capability, organizational defensibility, technology readiness, and strategic transformation alignment. Then we arrive at customized context versus content. This is one of the most important philosophical shifts inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Traditionally, organizations purchase generic training content. But AugusTalent believes context must come before content. Meaning, organizational realities, capability maturity, business goals, leadership culture, and workforce readiness must first be understood before designing transformation interventions. That is why this framework integrates KP2, KP3, KP4, and Peter's principle disruption thinking. Now moving further right, we enter the TTT architecture. This includes KP3, KP4, change in business behavior, KRA and KPI-linked ROI, and balanced scorecard systems. This means trainers inside the ecosystem are not merely facilitators. They are developed into business-aligned capability consultants. And finally, at the far right, we arrive at Pro-Career. This includes campus to corporate systems, Gen Z selection, assessment, and development. This is strategically very important because AugusTalent is not only transforming organizations, it is also building future workforce intelligence pipelines. Meaning, students, young professionals, future leaders, and emerging workforce ecosystems can be systematically developed from the earliest stages of professional evolution. Now, if you observe the complete architecture carefully, you will notice something extremely important. This is not a collection of isolated assessments or training modules. It is a connected capability intelligence operating system. An operating system integrating organizational diagnostics, leadership intelligence, books, frameworks, assessments, performance systems, behavioral transformation, future workforce readiness, and enterprise capability maturity. And this integrated architecture is what makes the Corporate Wisdom Index fundamentally different from traditional HR, learning, or consulting ecosystems. Now we move into one of the most strategic capability layers inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Our intellectual architecture. And specifically, Premium Strategic Talent Assessment and Development Frameworks. This slide explains how the AugusTalent ecosystem approaches capability intelligence progressively through multiple assessment maturity levels. Now this is very important. Most organizations use isolated assessments. One assessment for personality, another for engagement, another for performance, another for leadership. But organizational capability does not evolve in fragments. Capability evolves through connected intelligence layers. That is why the AugusTalent ecosystem has been designed as a multi-level capability intelligence architecture. Let us now walk through these levels one by one. The first layer is Corporate Wisdom Index Assessment. This is the master intelligence layer of the ecosystem. The Corporate Wisdom Index Assessment evaluates the overall maturity of an organization across areas such as leadership capability, organizational alignment, workforce intelligence, transformation readiness, governance maturity, execution capability, and strategic sustainability. It helps organizations understand not just where they are, but how prepared they are for the future. Now moving into the first structured capability layer. Level 1, AugusTalent Talent Fit Model Assessment. This is the foundational workforce intelligence assessment. The purpose of this assessment is to evaluate whether talent capability aligns with organizational needs. The fit model examines functional readiness, infrastructure alignment, technology enablement, and talent maturity. This helps organizations identify early capability gaps, misalignment risks, and workforce readiness challenges. Now, once foundational alignment is understood, the ecosystem moves into deeper talent intelligence. This brings us to Level 2, AugusTalent 9-Box Talent Mapping and Profit Framework. This is a significantly more strategic layer. Now please observe the word profit. This framework expands the fit model into broader organizational capability dimensions. Profit evaluates economic defensibility, hybrid infrastructure, technology architecture, and talent maturity. At this level, organizations begin evaluating future capability sustainability, not just current performance. This framework helps organizations understand whether their talent systems are capable of surviving future disruption, competitive pressure, technology evolution, and transformation complexity. Then we move into Level 3, Talent Culture Fit Assessment. Now this is extremely important, because capability without cultural alignment creates organizational friction. An employee may possess technical expertise, but still fail inside the organization because behavior, values, leadership expectations, or operating culture are misaligned. This framework evaluates behavioral compatibility, organizational value alignment, workplace adaptability, team integration capability, and cultural maturity. At this stage, organizations begin understanding not only what talent can do, but whether talent can thrive inside the organizational ecosystem. Now we move into one of the most advanced layers of the entire architecture. Level 4, AugusTalent Pro Fit and Olympus Interactive Diagnostics. This is a highly sophisticated enterprise intelligence framework. Please observe the multiple capability layers mentioned on the slide. This includes infinite asset governance, board and C-suite diagnostics, pro-fit analysis, Olympus strategic intelligence, and deep dive governance reporting. At this level, the ecosystem evaluates leadership intelligence, board maturity, strategic governance capability, transformation readiness, decision architecture, capability defensibility, and organizational resilience. This framework eventually generates a 6-layer strategic transformation report. This is not a generic assessment. It is a strategic organizational intelligence system designed for boards, CXOs, enterprise leaders, and transformation-driven organizations. Now we move into the most elite capability layer. Level 5, AugusTalent Module Lens Assessment. Please observe the positioning carefully. This is described as Strategic Governance Assessment for Boards and Investors. This is one of the most powerful concepts inside the entire ecosystem, because many organizational risks remain invisible. Leadership may not see them. Boards may not identify them. Investors may not recognize them until serious business consequences appear. The purpose of Module Lens is turning invisible capability risk into visible governance insight. This framework evaluates strategic vulnerability, governance maturity, leadership defensibility, capability sustainability, organizational resilience, and enterprise transformation exposure. At this level, AugusTalent moves beyond workforce development into enterprise governance intelligence. Now, if you observe all 5 levels together, you will notice a very important progression. The ecosystem evolves from basic workforce alignment toward deep organizational intelligence and governance maturity. This is why the slide mentions premium strategic talent assessment and development frameworks. These are not ordinary assessments. They are interconnected capability intelligence systems designed to support leadership evolution, organizational maturity, future readiness, and enterprise transformation. And finally, we arrive at a very unique framework within the ecosystem. 4-box model of life. Now this framework expands the conversation beyond organizations into human consciousness and self-awareness. Please observe the statement carefully. Courage to know the self to develop higher consciousness. This is extremely important, because sustainable transformation cannot happen only at the organizational level. Transformation must also happen at the human level. The 4-box model of life focuses on self-awareness, behavioral maturity, personal balance, human consciousness, decision wisdom, and inner capability alignment. Because ultimately, organizations evolve only when human beings evolve. And this is one of the most unique dimensions of the AugusTalent ecosystem. It integrates organizational intelligence with human evolution intelligence. Now, as we move forward in the presentation, you will begin seeing how all these capability systems connect together into one integrated corporate wisdom architecture. Now we move into one of the most critical intelligence systems inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. OCA-OMI, which stands for Organizational Culture Audit Leading to Organizational Maturity Index. Now this framework addresses a very important organizational reality. Most organizations focus heavily on strategy, technology, processes, targets, and performance metrics. But many organizations fail to recognize one fundamental truth. Every organization eventually becomes the culture it tolerates. And culture is not merely employee engagement, festival celebrations, or motivational slogans. Culture is the invisible operating system of the organization. It influences decision-making, leadership behavior, accountability, execution discipline, collaboration, innovation, customer experience, and transformation readiness. That is why the AugusTalent ecosystem treats culture not as a soft concept, but as measurable organizational intelligence. Now let us understand the 2 major components of this framework. The first component is Organizational Culture Audit, OCA. This stage focuses on diagnosing the current behavioral and operational reality of the organization. The audit examines multiple dimensions including leadership behavior, workplace discipline, communication flow, decision maturity, accountability culture, collaboration systems, learning culture, innovation readiness, performance orientation, and workforce behavior alignment. Because many organizations believe they have strong culture, until capability gaps begin affecting execution. The purpose of the organizational culture audit is to make invisible cultural patterns visible. Now, once the culture diagnostic is completed, the ecosystem moves into the second layer. Organizational Maturity Index, OMI. This is where the framework becomes significantly more strategic. OMI measures how mature the organization is as an interconnected operating system. Now this is extremely important, because organizational maturity is not determined only by company size or revenue. An organization may be financially successful, but still remain operationally immature. The Organizational Maturity Index evaluates leadership maturity, process maturity, workforce maturity, capability integration, governance discipline, transformation readiness, systems thinking, execution capability, and organizational resilience. In simple terms, OMI helps organizations understand how evolved the organization actually is. Now, if you observe carefully, the progression from OCA to OMI is very logical. First, the ecosystem diagnoses culture behavior. Then, it measures organizational maturity. This creates a complete organizational intelligence. Now, one of the biggest mistakes organizations make today is trying to implement transformation without understanding maturity readiness. For example, digital transformation may fail. Not because technology is weak, but because leadership maturity is low, culture alignment is poor, or workforce adaptability is insufficient. Similarly, ESG implementation may struggle. Not because the framework is wrong, but because organizational maturity is not prepared to sustain governance transformation. This is why OCA-OMI is strategically very powerful. It helps organizations understand whether the organization is truly capable of sustaining long-term transformation. Now let us look at the deeper strategic value of this framework. The OCA-OMI ecosystem helps organizations identify hidden capability risks, measure cultural alignment, improve leadership behavior, strengthen execution discipline, increase workforce maturity, and build sustainable transformation capability. It also supports succession planning, change management, leadership development, performance transformation, and enterprise resilience. Now, if you connect this framework with the earlier slides, you will notice something important. The Corporate Wisdom Index measures organizational intelligence broadly, but OCA-OMI specifically measures cultural intelligence and maturity intelligence, which means the ecosystem is now becoming increasingly interconnected. Leadership intelligence, workforce intelligence, organizational maturity, capability architecture, governance systems, and transformation readiness all begin operating together. And this is exactly how future-ready organizations will evolve. Not through isolated initiatives, but through integrated maturity ecosystems. And this naturally leads us into the next phase of the AugusTalent Capability Intelligence architecture. Now we move into one of the most strategic dimensions of the entire AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Organizational Intelligence Systems. And below that, Enterprise Capability Diagnostics. Now this is extremely important. Most organizations today are operating with financial dashboards, sales dashboards, operational reports, and performance scorecards. But very few organizations possess capability intelligence dashboards. Meaning, they do not clearly understand where capability gaps exist, where transformation risks are increasing, where leadership maturity is weak, or where execution systems are breaking down. This is exactly where enterprise capability diagnostics becomes critical. The AugusTalent ecosystem is designed to help organizations move from reactive management to intelligence-driven transformation. Now let us carefully examine the intelligence layers visible on the screen. The first layer is Leadership Capability Assessment. This is one of the foundational intelligence systems, because organizational capability always reflects leadership capability. This assessment evaluates decision maturity, leadership alignment, strategic thinking, behavioral discipline, coaching capability, execution ownership, and transformation readiness. Because leadership is not merely a position. Leadership is an operating capability. The next intelligence layer is Execution Readiness Index. Now this is a very important organizational reality. Many organizations create ambitious strategies. But strategy without execution capability creates organizational frustration. The Execution Readiness Index measures how effectively the organization can convert plans into disciplined execution. This includes accountability systems, cross-functional coordination, process alignment, execution culture, leadership follow-through, and operational maturity. Then we move into Revenue leakage heat maps. This is a highly strategic diagnostic layer. Because many organizations lose profitability. Not only because of market competition, but because of hidden operational leakage. This framework identifies capability gaps, behavioral inefficiencies, process breakdowns, customer experience weaknesses, sales leakage, service inconsistencies, and execution vulnerabilities that silently reduce organizational performance. The next layer is Organizational Maturity Intelligence. This connects directly with the OCA-OMI framework discussed earlier. Here, the ecosystem evaluates how mature the organization is across leadership systems, culture, capability integration, transformation readiness, governance maturity, and workforce alignment. Because sustainable growth requires maturity evolution, not just business expansion. Now we move into ESG Ownership Index. Today many organizations discuss ESG, but very few organizations operationalize ESG ownership internally. This framework measures sustainability accountability, governance maturity capability, leadership ownership, and organizational commitment toward sustainable transformation. Because ESG cannot succeed only through reporting. It requires behavioral integration and leadership maturity. Next comes HR Capability Maturity Index. This is another very important intelligence layer. Traditionally, HR has often been treated as a support function, but future organizations require strategic HR intelligence. This framework evaluates workforce capability systems, competency architecture, succession readiness, performance integration, learning maturity, talent transformation capability, and organizational workforce alignment. Because the future competitiveness of organizations will increasingly depend on HR capability maturity. Then we move into Workforce Readiness Analytics. This layer focuses on whether the workforce is prepared for future business complexity, technology evolution, AI integration, cross-functional collaboration, leadership expectations, and transformation pressure. This framework helps organizations identify future workforce vulnerabilities before they become operational crises. Now we arrive at Capability Risk Heat Maps. This is a highly strategic governance intelligence layer. Many organizational risks remain hidden because capability vulnerabilities are not measured systematically. This framework identifies high-risk capability zones, leadership dependency risks, critical talent gaps, execution vulnerabilities, behavioral instability, and transformation exposure areas. In simple terms, it converts invisible capability threats into visible strategic insight. And finally, we move into Leadership Productivity Indicators. Now this is extremely important. Organizations often measure employee productivity, but rarely measure leadership productivity. This framework evaluates how leadership behavior influences execution quality, decision effectiveness, team capability, organizational alignment, productivity culture, and transformation outcomes. Because leadership productivity is not about activity. It is about organizational impact. Now if you step back and observe all these intelligence layers together, you will notice something very important. These are not isolated assessments. Together, they form an enterprise capability intelligence system. A system capable of measuring organizational maturity, leadership readiness, workforce capability, transformation sustainability, governance intelligence, and future organizational resilience. And this is exactly why AugusTalent is positioned differently. Not as a training provider or a learning platform, but as a capability intelligence and workforce transformation ecosystem. An ecosystem where diagnostics become the foundation for sustainable transformation. And this intelligence-driven approach is what enables organizations to evolve from reactive operations to wisdom-driven enterprises. Now we move into one of the most important transformation frameworks inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. KP Level 1 through Level 4 Framework. And directly below that, you will notice a very important statement. From learning to business transformation. This single statement represents one of the biggest philosophical shifts in the entire ecosystem. Because traditionally, most organizations measure training activity. But very few organizations measure transformation impact. Now this creates a major problem. Organizations conduct learning programs. Employees attend workshops. Certificates are distributed. Feedback forms are completed. But after a few weeks, very little changes operationally. Behavior remains the same. Execution remains inconsistent. Productivity gaps continue. Leadership maturity does not evolve. And measurable business impact becomes difficult to identify. This is exactly why the KP level framework was developed. The purpose of this framework is to help organizations move progressively from learning activity toward measurable business transformation. Now let us examine each level carefully. The first stage is KP1, Awareness and Learning. This is the foundational level. At this stage, employees are introduced to new concepts, new frameworks, new behavioral expectations, new business ideas, and new organizational thinking. The focus here is awareness creation. Because transformation cannot begin unless people first understand what needs to change. However, awareness alone is not transformation. And this is where many organizations stop. Now we move into KP2, Knowledge Transfer. At this stage, the focus shifts from exposure to understanding and application readiness. Employees begin learning how concepts can be applied practically inside the organization. This includes functional understanding, case studies, scenario learning, business application, process integration, and contextual capability development. Now this is important. An employee may attend training. But unless knowledge is transferred effectively into workplace understanding, learning remains theoretical. Now we move into the most critical transition point. KP3, Behavior Change and Live Projects. This is where the ecosystem becomes transformation-oriented. At KP3, organizations begin measuring whether actual behavior is changing. Because real transformation does not happen in classrooms. Transformation happens inside business operations. At this stage, employees work on live projects, implementation assignments, business problem solving, cross-functional execution, and capability application. This level focuses on behavioral integration. Now this is extremely important. Many organizations mistakenly assume learning automatically changes behavior. But behavior changes only when systems, accountability, practice, leadership reinforcement, and real support transformation. That is why KP3 is often one of the most difficult yet most valuable stages of capability evolution. Now we move into the highest transformation layer. KP4, ROI and Business Transformation. This is where learning becomes measurable organizational impact. At KP4, the organization evaluates whether capability development is producing productivity improvement, business growth, cost optimization, leadership effectiveness, execution enhancement, customer experience improvement, or operational transformation. This level connects learning directly with KRA, KPI, balanced scorecard, business metrics, and transformation outcomes. Now please observe the statement at the bottom of the slide carefully. Training activity to business impact. This is the entire purpose of the KP framework. The ecosystem is designed to help organizations move away from attendance-driven learning toward impact-driven transformation. Now if you connect this framework with the earlier slides, you will begin noticing the deeper architecture emerging. The Corporate Wisdom Index provides the intelligence framework. The diagnostics identify capability gaps. The OCA-OMI measures maturity. And the KP level framework ensures learning translates into measurable transformation. This creates a complete capability evolution pathway. And this is exactly why AugusTalent positions learning not as an event, but as an organizational transformation system. Now we move into one of the foundational leadership frameworks inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. QuadPro Leadership LMCM Model. And directly below that, the four-dimensional leadership architecture. Now this framework was developed based on a very important organizational observation. Most leadership systems today are incomplete. Organizations often expect one individual to create vision, manage execution, develop people, and sustain organizational continuity, all simultaneously. But very few organizations clearly define the multiple dimensions required for mature leadership. As a result, many leaders become operationally overloaded, many managers fail to inspire, many coaches lack execution capability, and many organizations lose wisdom continuity. This is exactly why the QuadPro Leadership LMCM framework was developed. The model recognizes that future-ready leadership requires four interconnected dimensions operating together. And those four dimensions are leader, manager, coach, and mentor. Let us now understand each dimension carefully. The first dimension is L, leader. Please observe the description on the slide. Vision and strategic direction. The leader dimension focuses on future thinking, organizational direction, purpose alignment, transformation vision, innovation thinking, and strategic capability. A true leader helps organizations answer, where are we going? Why are we evolving? What future are we preparing for? The leader dimension creates clarity, alignment, purpose, and strategic momentum. But vision alone is not enough. This brings us to the second dimension. M, manager. Please observe the description carefully. Execution and operational discipline. Now this is extremely important. Many organizations have strong vision, but weak execution systems. The manager dimension focuses on accountability, process discipline, operational coordination, resource optimization, performance tracking, execution maturity, and business consistency. The manager converts vision into execution. Without management capability, even brilliant strategy collapses operationally. Now we move into the third dimension. C, coach. And the slide describes this as people development and performance improvement. This dimension focuses on developing human capability. The coach supports performance improvement, behavioral evolution, capability enhancement, feedback culture, employee confidence, and workforce growth. Now this is important. Traditional management often focuses only on targets. But future-ready organizations require continuous capability development. A coach helps individuals evolve beyond current limitations. The coach creates learning culture, growth mindset, and human capability acceleration. Now we arrive at the fourth and perhaps most overlooked dimension. M, mentor. Please observe the description carefully. Wisdom transfer and leadership continuity. This is one of the deepest dimensions of leadership maturity. A mentor helps transfer experience, judgment, organizational wisdom, values, leadership continuity, and long-term thinking. Because organizations do not sustain themselves only through systems. Organizations sustain themselves through wisdom continuity. Mentorship ensures future leaders are prepared, organizational knowledge is retained, and leadership maturity evolves across generations. Now if you observe these four dimensions together, you will notice something very important. Most leadership failures happen because organizations overdevelop one dimension while neglecting the others. For example, some leaders are visionary, but operationally weak. Some managers are disciplined, but unable to develop people. Some coaches are supportive, but lack strategic direction. And some organizations lose continuity because wisdom transfer never happens systematically. The QuadPro Leadership LMCM model addresses this imbalance. It creates integrated leadership maturity. A maturity system where vision, execution, people development, and wisdom continuity operate together as one leadership architecture. Now, if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the ecosystem becomes even clearer. The Corporate Wisdom Index measures organizational intelligence. OCA-OMI measures organizational maturity. KP levels measure transformation impact. And the QuadPro Leadership LMCM model develops leadership capability architecture. This means the ecosystem is no longer focusing only on training individuals. It is building future-ready leadership ecosystems. And this leadership philosophy becomes extremely important as organizations enter an era of AI disruption, workforce transformation, ESG evolution, and continuous business uncertainty. Because in the future, organizations will not survive merely through management. They will survive through integrated leadership wisdom. Now we move into one of the most unique and intellectually advanced frameworks inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Matrioska Organization. And directly below that, Systems Thinking for Future Organizations. Now this framework is inspired by the concept of layered intelligence systems. If you observe the structure carefully, the philosophy behind Matrioska organization is very different from traditional organizational thinking. Most organizations today still operate through isolated departments, fragmented functions, disconnected leadership systems, and silo-based decision-making. But future-ready organizations cannot function effectively through fragmentation. Why? Because modern organizations operate in environments that are complex, interconnected, technology-driven, rapidly evolving, and continuously transforming. This means organizations must begin functioning not as isolated departments, but as interconnected intelligence ecosystems. And that is the foundation of the Matrioska organization framework. Now let us carefully examine the key dimensions visible on the screen. The first concept is interconnected structures. This means every part of the organization influences every other part. Leadership affects culture. Culture affects execution. Execution affects customer experience. Customer experience affects revenue. Revenue affects workforce stability. And workforce capability affects transformation readiness. Nothing operates independently anymore. The future organization behaves like an interconnected living system. The next concept is nested organizational maturity. Now this is a very important idea. Inside every organization, multiple maturity layers exist simultaneously. For example, an organization may possess strong technology systems, but weak leadership maturity, or strong financial capability, but low workforce adaptability, or excellent strategy, but poor execution discipline. The Matrioska framework recognizes that organizations evolve through multiple nested maturity layers. And unless these layers evolve together, organizational imbalance begins to appear. Now we move into capability integration. Most organizations today develop capabilities in isolation. One department focuses on leadership, another on HR, another on sales, another on technology, another on ESG. But future transformation requires integrated capability ecosystems, meaning leadership capability, workforce capability, technology capability, governance capability, and execution capability must operate together coherently. This brings us to the next dimension: scalable intelligence layers. Now, this is extremely important for future enterprises. Organizations now develop intelligence systems that can scale across departments, across business units, across geographies, and across future transformation complexity. The Matrioska organization framework supports multi-layer organizational intelligence scaling, meaning the organization develops not only operational scale, but also leadership scale, capability scale, governance scale, and transformation scale. Now we move into strategic alignment. This is one of the biggest challenges globally today. Many organizations possess strategy at the top, but disconnect at the operational level. The Matrioska framework focuses on aligning vision, leadership, capability, culture, execution, and workforce systems into one integrated organizational direction. And finally, we arrive at enterprise coherence. Now, this may be one of the most important concepts on this slide, because organizations fail when systems become incoherent. For example, leadership expectations may conflict with operational behavior. Culture may conflict with strategy. Performance systems may conflict with capability development. Transformation initiatives may conflict with workforce readiness. The Matrioska organization framework is designed to create organizational coherence, meaning all intelligence layers begin functioning harmoniously together. Now, please observe the statement at the bottom of the slide carefully. Organizations are not departments. Organizations are interconnected intelligence systems. This single statement represents the core philosophy of the framework. The future organization is not simply a structure. It is a living capability ecosystem. A system where leadership, people, technology, culture, governance, learning, execution, and transformation continuously interact with each other. Now, if you connect this framework with the earlier slides, you will notice the architecture becoming deeper and more integrated. The Corporate Wisdom Index measures organizational intelligence. OCA-OMI measures maturity. KP levels measure transformation impact. QuadPro LMCM develops leadership capability. And Matrioska organization provides systems thinking architecture for enterprise evolution. This means the AugusTalent ecosystem is no longer focusing on isolated interventions. It is building interconnected organizational intelligence systems for future enterprises. And this systems thinking philosophy becomes increasingly critical in an era of AI disruption, workforce complexity, ESG transformation, digital integration, and continuous organizational evolution. Because the organizations of the future will not survive through isolated excellence. They will survive through integrated intelligence coherence. Now we move deeper into one of the core organizational intelligence frameworks inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. OCA-OMI, which stands for Organizational Culture Audit and Organizational Maturity Index. Now, this framework is extremely important because many organizations today focus heavily on business growth, technology, financial expansion, and operational targets, while ignoring one critical reality. Organizational maturity determines sustainability. An organization may grow rapidly, but still remain internally immature. And when maturity does not evolve alongside growth, organizations begin experiencing execution instability, leadership inconsistency, workforce fragmentation, governance weakness, and transformation fatigue. This is exactly why the OCA-OMI framework was developed. The purpose of this framework is to help organizations measure, understand, and evolve their internal maturity systems. Now let us carefully examine the dimensions visible on the screen. The first dimension is leadership maturity. Now, this is foundational, Because organizational behavior always mirrors leadership behavior. Leadership maturity is not simply about designation or authority. It includes decision wisdom, strategic thinking, accountability, behavioral consistency, people development, adaptability, and transformation capability. The OCA-OMI framework evaluates whether leadership systems are mature enough to sustain long-term organizational evolution. The second dimension is process maturity. Now many organizations possess processes. But process maturity is very different from process existence. Process maturity measures consistency, integration, discipline, scalability, cross-functional coordination, and operational reliability. Because immature processes create confusion, dependency, inefficiency, and execution breakdowns. Then we move into workforce capability. This dimension evaluates whether the workforce possesses the skills, behavior, mindset, adaptability, and capability maturity required for current and future organizational demands. Because future organizations will increasingly compete through workforce intelligence. Now we arrive at governance maturity. This is becoming increasingly important globally. Governance maturity evaluates ethical discipline, decision transparency, leadership accountability, risk visibility, compliance capability, and strategic sustainability. Because organizations may grow financially, but without governance maturity, long-term resilience becomes unstable. Next comes learning culture. Now this is a very important capability layer. Many organizations conduct learning programs, but very few organizations build learning cultures. A learning culture exists when people continuously evolve, knowledge flows openly, feedback is accepted, adaptability increases, and capability development becomes part of organizational behavior. The learning is an activity or an embedded organizational mindset. Now we move into transformation readiness. This is one of the most critical dimensions in today's business environment. Organizations today are constantly facing AI disruption, technology shifts, market uncertainty, ESG evolution, and workforce transformation. Transformation readiness evaluates whether the organization is psychologically, operationally, culturally, and strategically prepared to evolve. Because many transformation initiatives fail. Not because the strategy is wrong, but because the organization lacks maturity readiness. Then we arrive at execution capability. This dimension evaluates how effectively the organization converts strategy into action. Execution capability includes accountability, cross-functional coordination, leadership follow-through, process discipline, decision speed, and operational consistency. Because strategy without execution maturity creates organizational frustration. And finally, we move into organizational resilience. This is becoming one of the defining characteristics of future organizations. Resilience measures the organization's ability to adapt under pressure, recover from disruption, sustain capability during uncertainty, and evolve continuously. Because future-ready organizations are not merely efficient. They are adaptive, intelligent, and resilient. Now if you observe all these dimensions together, you will notice something very important. OCA-OMI is not simply measuring culture. It is measuring organizational evolution maturity. It helps organizations understand how mature, how aligned, how resilient, and how transformation ready they truly are. Now if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the architecture becomes increasingly integrated. The Corporate Wisdom Index provides the Master Intelligence Framework. Matrioska organization provides systems thinking architecture. KP levels measure transformation impact. QuadPro LMCM develops leadership capability. And OCA-OMI measures Organizational Maturity Index. This means the AugusTalent ecosystem is gradually building. A complete enterprise capability intelligence system. A system designed not merely to improve organizations temporarily, but to help organizations evolve sustainably in an increasingly complex future. Now we move into one of the fastest evolving capability domains in the modern business world. Please observe the title carefully. ESG Capability Intelligence. And directly below that, beyond ESG compliance. Now this statement is extremely important, because today many organizations approach ESG as a reporting requirement, a compliance exercise, or a branding initiative. But future-ready organizations must understand something much deeper. ESG is not only about reporting. ESG is about organizational capability maturity. It is about whether the organization possesses the leadership intelligence, workforce readiness, governance discipline, and operational capability required to sustain responsible long-term transformation. This is exactly why the AugusTalent ecosystem approaches ESG differently. Not merely as compliance, but as capability intelligence. Now let us carefully examine the focus areas visible on the screen. The first dimension is ESG leadership maturity. This is foundational, because ESG transformation cannot succeed unless leadership understands its strategic importance. ESG leadership maturity evaluates how deeply leaders integrate sustainability thinking, ethical governance, social responsibility, risk awareness, and long-term value creation into organizational decision-making. Because ESG is not a department, it is a leadership philosophy. Now we move into sustainability ownership. This is one of the biggest global challenges today. Many organizations have ESG reports, but very little internal ownership. True sustainability transformation happens only when leadership, managers, employees, vendors, and operational systems collectively take responsibility for sustainable behavior. This framework evaluates whether ESG is centrally controlled or organizationally owned. The next dimension is governance intelligence. Now governance is becoming increasingly critical globally. Organizations today operate in environments of high transparency, stakeholder scrutiny, regulatory pressure, and investor accountability. Governance intelligence measures decision discipline, ethical capability, risk visibility, policy maturity, leadership accountability, and strategic sustainability governance. Because governance failures eventually become organizational trust failures. Now we move into green workforce capability. This is a future-oriented capability layer. Organizations often focus on green technology, but future sustainability also requires green workforce capability. Meaning, employees must understand sustainable operations, resource responsibility, environmental awareness, ethical practices, and ESG-aligned decision behavior. This framework evaluates whether the workforce is prepared to support sustainable transformation operationally. Next comes sustainability culture. Now this is extremely important. An organization may publish ESG commitments, but unless sustainability becomes part of organizational culture, transformation remains superficial. Sustainability culture evaluates whether sustainable thinking is embedded into daily behavior, decision-making, leadership expectations, operational practices, and organizational values. Because sustainability cannot survive only through policies, it must become organizational behavior. Now we arrive at ESG transformation readiness. This dimension evaluates how prepared the organization is to evolve into a future-ready sustainable enterprise. This includes readiness across leadership systems, technology, workforce capability, governance maturity, process adaptation, and strategic alignment. Because many organizations want ESG transformation, but lack the capability infrastructure required to sustain it. And finally, we move into operational sustainability capability. This is where ESG becomes operationally integrated. This framework evaluates whether sustainability principles are embedded into operations, supply chains, customer systems, resource utilization, decision frameworks, and execution models. Because sustainability becomes meaningful only when strategy translates into operational behavior. Now, if you step back and observe all these dimensions together, you will notice something very important. The AugusTalent ecosystem does not treat ESG as a compliance checklist. It treats ESG as an enterprise capability maturity system. A system integrating leadership intelligence, governance maturity, workforce capability, organizational culture, and operational sustainability. Now, if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the architecture becomes even more integrated. The Corporate Wisdom Index measures organizational intelligence. OCA-OMI measures organizational maturity. Matrioska organization provides systems thinking architecture. KP levels measure transformation impact. And ESG Capability Intelligence ensures sustainability transformation capability. This means the AugusTalent ecosystem is not simply preparing organizations for today's business environment. It is preparing organizations for the future of responsible enterprise evolution. Because future organizations will not be evaluated only by profitability. They will increasingly be evaluated by wisdom, sustainability, governance maturity, and long-term capability resilience. Now we move into one of the most commercially intelligent frameworks inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Black Box Sales Competencies. And directly below that, Behavioral Sales Intelligence Architecture. Now, this framework was developed based on one very important realization. Most organizations train sales teams only on products, features, pricing, targets, and closing techniques. But modern selling is no longer transactional. Future sales success depends on behavioral intelligence, customer psychology, trust capability, relationship maturity, and strategic decision understanding. This is why the Black Box framework focuses not merely on selling activity, but on understanding how customers think before they buy. Now let us carefully examine each focus area visible on the screen. The first dimension is consultative selling, and specifically, the 10-step selling process. Now, traditional selling often focuses only on pitching and closing. But consultative selling is a structured customer engagement journey. The process includes prospecting, rapport building, need identification, solution presentation, handling objections, value communication, negotiation, commitment building, delivery coordination, and relationship continuity. This means the salesperson is not behaving like a product pusher. Instead, the salesperson evolves into a business advisor helping the customer solve problems. Because future customers increasingly expect guidance, clarity, confidence, and long-term value. Now we move into one of the most powerful dimensions of the framework. Customer psychology. Please observe the 5-stage buyer buying process visible on the slide. This framework recognizes that customers go through a psychological journey before making any purchase decision. The first stage is felt need. This is the emotional beginning of the buying process. The customer realizes a problem exists, a gap exists, or a desire exists. Now, this stage is extremely important because many buying decisions begin emotionally before they become logical. The second stage is research for solution. At this stage, the customer begins exploring possible solutions, brands, service providers, recommendations, reviews, and alternatives. The third stage is evaluation of alternatives. Now the customer begins comparing features, trust levels, pricing, brand reputation, service quality, and long-term value. The fourth stage is buying decision. This is where the customer finally commits to a decision. But this decision is influenced not only by logic, but also by confidence, trust, comfort, and emotional assurance. And finally, we arrive at post-purchase decision. This stage is critically important, because after the purchase, the customer evaluates whether the decision was correct. This stage influences repeat business loyalty, referrals, brand trust, and long-term relationship sustainability. Now this brings us into one of the most unique concepts inside the black box framework. Trust intelligence. Please observe the explanation carefully. The black box exists primarily inside the first two stages of the buyer journey: felt need and research for solution. Why is this called the black box? Because during these stages, the customer's internal psychology is largely invisible. The customer may not openly express fears, uncertainties, aspirations, financial concerns, social pressure, or emotional motivations. But these hidden thoughts strongly influence buying behavior. The salesperson who understands this black box gains a major strategic advantage. Because the ability to understand what the customer is silently thinking creates trust, relationship strength, customer confidence, and deeper engagement capability. This is why the framework calls it trust intelligence. Now we move into relationship capability. Modern selling is no longer only about closing transactions. It is about building long-term customer ecosystems. Relationship capability focuses on empathy, communication maturity, customer continuity, service orientation, emotional intelligence, and long-term engagement behavior. Because future business growth increasingly depends on relationship sustainability. Now we arrive at negotiation maturity. And specifically, the BATNA model. BATNA stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Now this is a very important negotiation concept. Weak negotiators often negotiate emotionally. Mature negotiators negotiate strategically. The BATNA framework helps sales professionals understand their fallback position, the customer's alternatives, decision flexibility, value positioning, and negotiation leverage. Because negotiation maturity is not about winning aggressively. It is about creating sustainable value and intelligent agreements. Now we move into sales behavior analytics. This dimension focuses on measuring the behavioral patterns influencing sales performance. This includes communication style, customer engagement behavior, follow-up discipline, relationship maturity, listening capability, empathy, and decision interaction quality. Because future sales ecosystems will increasingly depend on behavioral intelligence analytics. And finally, we arrive at business growth capability. This is where sales connects directly with organizational transformation. Business growth capability evaluates whether the organization's sales ecosystem can adapt, scale, build customer trust, retain relationships, and sustain long-term growth. Because future organizations will not grow only through products. They will grow through customer intelligence and behavioral capability systems. Now if you observe all these dimensions together, you will notice something very important. Black box sales competencies is not a traditional sales training framework. It is a behavioral sales intelligence architecture. An architecture integrating customer psychology, trust systems, consultative selling, relationship capability, negotiation maturity, behavioral analytics, and strategic business growth intelligence. Now if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the AugusTalent ecosystem becomes even more interconnected. Leadership intelligence, organizational maturity, workforce capability, ESG transformation, and now, customer intelligence, all begin operating as one integrated enterprise capability system. Because future business growth will increasingly depend not only on what organizations sell, but on how intelligently they understand human behavior. Now we move into one of the most industry-specific transformation frameworks inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. First Pencil Approach. And directly below that, Automotive 4S Capability Intelligence. Now this framework was developed based on deep observations from the automotive retail ecosystem. The automotive industry today is undergoing massive transformation. Dealerships are facing changing customer expectations, digital buying behavior, EV transition, margin pressure, service competition, profitability challenges, and workforce capability gaps. At the same time, many dealerships still operate using traditional sales behavior, transaction-focused negotiation, weak customer engagement systems, and inconsistent execution discipline. This is exactly why the first pencil approach was developed. Now the phrase, first pencil, comes from one of the most important moments inside automotive retail negotiation. The first quotation, the first offer, the first financial structure, the first value positioning. This first interaction often psychologically shapes customer trust, price perception, negotiation flow, and final conversion probability. Which means, the first pencil is not merely a pricing exercise. It is a capability intelligence moment. Now let us carefully examine the ecosystem visible on the screen. This framework is designed for automotive dealerships, meaning dealer principals, dealer owners, automotive leadership teams, and dealership operations. But it is also designed for sales leaders, because modern automotive sales leadership requires more than target management. It requires customer intelligence, behavioral maturity, profitability understanding, execution systems, and workforce capability development. The framework is also designed for service ecosystems. Now this is extremely important, because automotive profitability today increasingly depends not only on vehicle sales, but also on service retention, customer relationship continuity, after-sales experience, and long-term customer engagement. Then we move into dealer transformation. Many dealerships today are struggling with margin pressure, customer dissatisfaction, low workforce engagement, inconsistent process discipline, and operational inefficiency. The first pencil framework helps dealerships transform from transaction-driven operations toward intelligent customer capability ecosystems. And finally, this framework focuses heavily on automotive workforce capability. Because dealership transformation cannot happen unless sales teams, service advisors, managers, frontline staff, and leadership systems all evolve together. Now let us move into the key focus areas of the framework. The first focus area is profitability intelligence. This is one of the most critical dealership capability dimensions. Many dealerships focus heavily on sales volume. Sustainable business success depends on profitability intelligence. This includes margin awareness, financial discipline, value-based selling, cost optimization, retention capability, and operational profitability maturity. Because revenue without profitability discipline creates business instability. Now we move into negotiation maturity. This directly connects with the earlier black box framework. Automotive negotiation today is highly behavioral. Customers are more informed than ever before, which means dealership professionals must develop confidence, trust-building capability, value communication, emotional intelligence, and strategic negotiation maturity. The first pencil framework helps sales professionals move beyond discount-driven selling toward intelligent value-based negotiation. Now we move into customer experience capability. This is becoming one of the most important differentiators in the automotive industry. Customers today evaluate not only the vehicle, but the entire dealership experience. This includes showroom behavior, sales interaction, service quality, follow-up discipline, communication maturity, delivery experience, and long-term relationship continuity. The framework helps dealerships build customer-centric operating capability. Because customer experience directly influences retention, referrals, brand trust, and lifetime profitability. Next comes dealership transformation. This is the broader operational capability layer. Transformation includes leadership maturity, process discipline, technology integration, customer systems, workforce capability, and business intelligence alignment. Because future-ready dealerships must evolve from traditional retail operations toward integrated mobility experience ecosystems. And finally, we arrive at execution discipline. Now this may be one of the most underestimated dimensions inside dealership operations. Many dealerships possess strategy, targets, and business ambition. But weak execution systems create customer inconsistency, operational leakage, workforce confusion, and profitability erosion. Execution discipline focuses on process adherence, daily operating consistency, customer follow-through, accountability systems, leadership discipline, and operational maturity. Because dealership capability ultimately depends on execution consistency. Now, if you observe all these dimensions together, you will notice something very important. The first pencil approach is not simply automotive sales training. It is Automotive 4S Capability Intelligence. An ecosystem integrating sales intelligence, customer psychology, profitability systems, workforce capability, negotiation maturity, execution discipline, and dealership transformation architecture. Now, if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the AugusTalent ecosystem becomes even more industry integrated. Leadership intelligence, organizational maturity, workforce transformation, customer intelligence, behavioral capability, and now, automotive transformation intelligence. All become interconnected capability systems. Because future automotive ecosystems will not compete only through products. They will compete through customer trust, workforce capability, and operational intelligence. Now we move into one of the most future-oriented and socially impactful dimensions of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Campus to Corporate Ecosystem. And directly below that, Catching Talent Young. Now this statement is extremely important. Because one of the biggest challenges organizations face today is not only hiring talent, but hiring workplace-ready talent. Across industries, organizations repeatedly report the same concern. Students may possess degrees, certifications, and academic knowledge, but many still struggle with professional behavior, communication maturity, corporate discipline, business thinking, workplace adaptability, and execution readiness. This creates a major employability gap. And that gap is exactly what the campus to corporate ecosystem is designed to address. Now this framework is based on a very important philosophy. Instead of waiting for individuals to enter organizations and then correcting workplace behavior later, the ecosystem focuses on developing capability maturity early. Meaning, students, young professionals, and emerging workforce talent are prepared before they enter the corporate ecosystem. Now let us carefully examine the capability layers visible on the screen. The first dimension is employability intelligence. Now employability is no longer only about technical qualification. Future employability increasingly depends on adaptability, communication, behavior, learning agility, professional maturity, and business understanding. Employability intelligence evaluates whether individuals possess the capability to function effectively inside modern workplace ecosystems. The next dimension is workplace behavior. This is extremely important. Many young professionals enter organizations without understanding professional conduct, accountability, workplace etiquette, team collaboration, time discipline, or organizational expectations. This framework helps individuals understand how behavior influences career growth. Because technical capability without workplace maturity creates professional instability. Now we move into corporate readiness. Corporate readiness focuses on preparing individuals for real organizational environments. This includes professional expectations, business culture, organizational hierarchy, performance systems, communication standards, and execution discipline. Because many students experience cultural shock when they move from campus environments into corporate ecosystems. The campus to corporate framework helps reduce this transition gap. Next comes communication maturity. Now, communication today is one of the most critical professional capabilities. But communication maturity is not only about speaking English fluently. It includes clarity, confidence, business communication, professional interaction, listening capability, presentation maturity, and workplace influence. Because future professionals will increasingly succeed through communication intelligence. Now we move business professionalism. This focuses on helping young professionals understand how businesses actually function, including professional ethics, ownership mindset, organizational accountability, customer orientation, team collaboration, and business discipline. Because organizations today are not only hiring employees, they are looking for professionally mature contributors. Next comes Gen Z workplace adaptation. This is becoming increasingly important globally. Today, organizations are managing multi-generational workforces. And Gen Z professionals often bring digital fluency, creativity, speed, and innovation thinking. But organizations also face challenges related to attention span, feedback sensitivity, workplace discipline, communication style, and long-term professional commitment. The campus to corporate ecosystem helps bridge the expectation gap between organizations and emerging workforce generations. Now we arrive at future capability readiness. This is one of the most strategic dimensions of the framework. The future workplace will increasingly demand AI collaboration, systems thinking, cross-functional capability, continuous learning, adaptability, problem solving, and transformation readiness. This framework prepares individuals not merely for today's jobs, but for future workforce evolution. Now please observe the statement at the bottom of the slide carefully. From campus potential to corporate capability. This single statement captures the entire philosophy of the ecosystem. Every student possesses potential, but organizations require capability. The purpose of this ecosystem is to systematically transform raw potential into professional capability maturity. Now, if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the AugusTalent ecosystem becomes even more complete. The ecosystem is not only transforming organizations, leaders, managers, sales systems, or workforce intelligence. It is also building future talent pipelines. Meaning, the ecosystem now supports capability evolution across students, young professionals, mid-level managers, leaders, organizations, and enterprise systems. This creates a full lifecycle capability intelligence architecture. Because future-ready organizations will increasingly depend on future-ready people. And future-ready people must be developed before capability gaps become organizational risks. Now we move into one of the most transformational pillars inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Train the Trainer Ecosystem. And directly below that, Building Capability Multipliers. Now this statement is extremely important. Because traditionally, Train the Trainer programs have focused mainly on presentation skills, facilitation techniques, icebreakers, classroom engagement, and content delivery. But the business world today requires something much deeper. Organizations no longer need only good facilitators. They need capability transformation professionals. And this is exactly why the AugusTalent TTT ecosystem is positioned differently. It is designed not merely to create trainers, but to develop capability consultants. Now let us carefully examine the dimensions visible on the screen. The first dimension is consulting capability. This is one of the most important shifts inside the ecosystem. A traditional trainer typically delivers predefined content, but a capability consultant understands business problems, organizational gaps, leadership challenges, capability deficiencies, and transformation priorities. This means the professional evolves from content delivery toward business transformation support. The next dimension is competency mapping. Now this is becoming increasingly important for modern organizations. Organizations today require clear visibility into what competencies exist, what competencies are missing, what future capabilities are needed, and how workforce capability aligns with business goals. The TTT ecosystem trains professionals to understand competency architecture, behavioral indicators, role capability mapping, and workforce maturity systems. Because future trainers must understand capability ecosystems, not only learning sessions. Now we move into organizational diagnostics. This is another major differentiator. Most trainers focus only on delivering workshops. But the AugusTalent ecosystem develops professionals who can first diagnose organizational realities. This includes understanding culture maturity, leadership alignment, execution gaps, workforce behavior, transformation readiness, and capability vulnerabilities. Because meaningful transformation can happen only after organizational intelligence becomes visible. Next comes transformation thinking. This is extremely important. Future organizations are constantly evolving due to AI disruption, technology shifts, ESG expectations, changing workforce dynamics, and market uncertainty. This means trainers can no longer operate only as knowledge presenters. They must understand how organizations evolve, how systems interact, how transformation resistance emerges, and how capability maturity develops over time. Transformation thinking helps professionals move from training mindset toward systems thinking mindset. Now we move into business linkage. This is one of the biggest weaknesses in traditions. Many training programs operate disconnected from business outcomes. But organizations today increasingly ask, how does learning improve performance? How does capability development support execution? How does transformation improve business sustainability? The TTT ecosystem helps professionals connect learning directly with KRA, KPI, balanced scorecard, KP3, KP4, and measurable organizational impact. Because future capability professionals must understand business intelligence, not only learning methodology. Next comes leadership architecture. This dimension integrates directly with frameworks such as QuadPro Leadership LMCM, OCA-OMI, and Corporate Wisdom Index. Professionals inside the ecosystem learn how leadership maturity influences culture, execution, transformation, workforce capability, and organizational resilience. Because leadership capability sits at the center of organizational evolution. And finally, we arrive at capability intelligence. Now this is one of the most important concepts inside the entire ecosystem. Capability intelligence means understanding how people, leadership, culture, behavior, processes, governance, and workforce systems interact together to influence organizational performance. This moves professionals far beyond traditional facilitation. Now please observe the statement at the bottom of the slide carefully. Trainers evolve into capability consultants. This is the heart of the entire TTT ecosystem. The purpose is not simply to create more trainers. The purpose is to create professionals capable of diagnosing, advising, transforming, coaching, and architecting organizational capability systems. Now, if you connect this framework with the earlier slides, the architecture becomes increasingly powerful. The Corporate Wisdom Index provides enterprise intelligence. OCA-OMI measures maturity. KP levels measure transformation impact. Matrioska organization provides systems thinking. Black Box develops customer intelligence. First Pencil develops industry capability intelligence. Campus to Corporate builds future workforce readiness. And now the TTT ecosystem develops capability multipliers. Professionals capable of carrying these transformation systems into organizations globally. This means the AugusTalent ecosystem is not merely building learning programs. It is building a global capability transformation network. Because future organizations will increasingly require professionals who can integrate learning, business, leadership, diagnostics, transformation, and organizational intelligence into one connected capability ecosystem. Matrioska organization provides systems thinking. Black Box develops customer intelligence. First Pencil develops industry capability intelligence. Now we move into one of the most innovative professional development systems inside the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Belt-based professional evolution system. Now this framework is inspired by a very powerful idea. In martial arts, individuals do not become masters overnight. They evolve progressively through discipline, practice, maturity, capability development, and wisdom accumulation. The belt system represents not merely certification, but capability evolution. And this exact philosophy has been adapted into the AugusTalent ecosystem. Because one of the biggest problems in the learning and consulting industry today is, everyone claims expertise immediately. There is often no structured maturity pathway, no capability progression architecture, and no long-term professional evolution system. The AugusTalent Belt architecture solves this problem by creating a structured capability maturity journey. A journey where professionals evolve step by step, from foundational understanding towards strategic transformation capability. Now let us carefully examine each belt level visible on the screen. The first stage is White Belt, Foundation Practitioner. This is the entry-level capability stage. At this level, individuals begin developing fundamental understanding of professional behavior, business concepts, organizational systems, learning frameworks, and capability thinking. The white belt represents awareness, foundation, and learning readiness. This stage is not about mastery. It is about building the right mindset for professional evolution. Now we move into Yellow Belt, Certified Facilitator. At this level, professionals begin developing facilitation capability. This includes communication, presentation, group engagement, learning delivery, workshop management, and foundational training systems. But importantly, the ecosystem ensures that facilitation is linked with business understanding. Because future facilitators must understand organizational realities, not only presentation techniques. Now we move into Green Belt, Capability Consultant. This is one of the most important transition points in the ecosystem. At this stage, professionals evolve beyond training delivery. They begin understanding organizational diagnostics, competency mapping, behavioral intelligence, capability gaps, and business linkage. The Green Belt professional starts functioning as a transformation-oriented capability consultant. This means the individual now supports organizational improvement, not merely learning sessions. Now we move into Blue Belt, transformation specialist. At this level, professionals begin operating at organizational transformation depth. They understand change management, systems thinking, organizational maturity, leadership capability, workforce intelligence, E3 and KP4 implementation, and transformation architecture. Blue Belt professionals are capable of supporting large-scale capability evolution initiatives. This is where professionals begin moving from capability consulting toward enterprise transformation systems. Now we move into Brown Belt, strategic capability architect. This is an advanced strategic leadership level. At this stage, professionals begin designing capability ecosystems. They understand organizational intelligence, enterprise maturity, governance systems, transformation strategy, leadership architecture, and long-term capability sustainability. Brown Belt professionals can help organizations build integrated workforce and transformation systems. This is no longer operational consulting. This becomes strategic enterprise capability architecture. And finally, we arrive at the highest maturity level. Black Belt, Master Transformation Architect. Now this is not merely an advanced certification. This represents deep transformation wisdom. Black Belt professionals understand enterprise systems, organizational intelligence, governance maturity, leadership evolution, business transformation, workforce capability, systems integration, and long-term organizational sustainability. At this level, the professional evolves into a strategic transformation architect capable of guiding organizations, leaders, boards, and enterprise ecosystems. Now if you observe the entire progression carefully, you will notice something very important. This is not a traditional certification ladder. It is a professional maturity architecture. The ecosystem is designed to ensure that professionals evolve through experience, application, assessment, transformation exposure, and capability integration. Now this is also psychologically very powerful, because the belt system creates identity, aspiration, discipline, community, and long-term progression motivation. Professionals do not simply complete courses. They evolve through capability ascension. Now if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the AugusTalent ecosystem becomes even more scalable. The Corporate Wisdom Index measures enterprise intelligence. OCA-OMI measures maturity. KP levels measure transformation impact. TTT develops capability multipliers. And now the belt-based evolution system creates structured professional capability progression. This means the ecosystem now supports students, trainers, consultants, leaders, specialists, and transformation architects through one connected professional evolution pathway. Because future organizations will increasingly require not just skilled professionals, but capability mature transformation leaders. Now we move into one of the most strategically scalable components of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Specialization tracks. Now this is extremely important, because modern professionals cannot master every domain simultaneously. Organizations today require specialized capability expertise. At the same time, professionals increasingly want clear growth pathways, domain identity, career direction, and transformation specialization. This is exactly why the AugusTalent ecosystem introduces structured specialization tracks. Now if you observe the table on the screen carefully, you will notice that the ecosystem allows professionals to evolve across different transformation domains. This creates guided capability journeys. meaning, professionals are not left confused about what to learn next, how to grow, or where they fit inside the ecosystem. Instead, the ecosystem provides clear specialization architecture. Now let us carefully examine each track. The first track is Track A, Corporate Capability. This is one of the broadest and most foundational transformation tracks. This specialization focuses on organizational capability systems, workforce intelligence, business maturity, competency architecture, performance transformation, and enterprise capability alignment. Professionals in this track learn how organizations function as integrated capability ecosystems. This track is highly relevant for corporate trainers, consultants, business transformation professionals, and capability strategists. Now we move into Track B, HR Transformation. This track focuses on evolving HR from administrative support toward strategic workforce intelligence. Professionals inside this track learn competency mapping, succession planning, capability architecture, workforce analytics, behavioral intelligence, learning maturity, performance transformation, and organizational capability systems. This specialization is designed for HR professionals, land leaders, CHROs, talent specialists, and workforce transformation consultants. Because the future of HR will increasingly depend on capability intelligence. Now we move into Track C, ESG and Sustainability. This is becoming one of the most critical transformation domains globally. This specialization focuses on ESG leadership maturity, governance intelligence, sustainability capability, green workforce systems, ethical transformation, and responsible enterprise architecture. Professionals in this track learn how to integrate sustainability into organizational behavior and business systems. This track is highly relevant for ESG consultants, sustainability leaders, governance professionals, and transformation-driven organizations. Because future enterprises will increasingly be evaluated through sustainability maturity. Now we move into Track D, Leadership Architecture. This track integrates frameworks such as QuadPro Leadership LMCM, Organizational Maturity Systems, Leadership Diagnosis, Coaching Systems, and Transformation Leadership Capability. Professionals here learn how leadership influences culture, execution, workforce capability, organizational intelligence, and transformation sustainability. This specialization is ideal for leadership trainers, executive coaches, organizational consultants, and transformation leaders. Because future organizations will require integrated leadership ecosystems. Now we move into Track E, Sales and Business Growth. This track focuses on black box sales competencies, customer psychology, trust intelligence, consultative selling, negotiation maturity, business growth capability, and customer experience systems. Professionals inside this specialization learn how modern business growth increasingly depends on behavioral intelligence and relationship capability. This track is highly valuable for sales trainers, business growth consultants, automotive professionals, customer experience specialists, and revenue transformation leaders. Because future sales ecosystems will compete through customer intelligence. And finally, we arrive at Track F, Campus to Corporate. This is one of the most socially impactful tracks inside the ecosystem. This specialization focuses on employability intelligence, professional behavior, corporate readiness, communication maturity, Gen Z adaptation, future workforce readiness, and career capability development. Professionals inside this track help transform students and young professionals into corporate-ready talent ecosystems. This track is ideal for career counselors, soft skills trainers, placement professionals, educational institutions, and workforce readiness consultants. Because future workforce capability must begin before individuals enter organizations. Now, if you observe all these tracks together, you will notice something very important. The AugusTalent ecosystem is not creating generic learning pathways. It is creating structured transformation specialization architecture. This allows professionals to develop identity, build expertise, gain credibility, and evolve strategically within their chosen capability domain. Now, if we connect this framework with the earlier slides, the ecosystem becomes increasingly scalable. The belt system creates professional maturity progression, and the specialization tracks create domain mastery pathways. Together, they form a complete professional capability evolution architecture. This means professionals can now evolve systematically from foundation learning toward specialized enterprise transformation expertise. And this is exactly how future-ready capability ecosystems will operate. Not through random certifications, but through structured capability maturity and specialization intelligence. Now we arrive at one of the most important strategic visuals inside the entire AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. The Capability Ascension Map. Now this slide represents the complete evolution journey, not only for individual professionals, but also for organizations, leaders, consultants, and transformation ecosystems. This map explains how capability maturity evolves progressively through multiple stages. And this is extremely important, because one of the biggest problems in the learning industry today is fragmentation. People attend isolated programs, collect certifications, consume content, but often lack structured progression, transformation depth, and long-term capability direction. The Capability Ascension Map solves this problem by creating a guided capability evolution pathway. A pathway that moves progressively from learning toward enterprise transformation intelligence. Now let us carefully move through each zone visible on the screen. The first stage is Start Zone. This is the foundational capability layer. Please observe the focus areas carefully. The first component is assessments, because transformation always begins with visibility. Organizations and professionals must first understand current capability levels, strengths, gaps, behavioral patterns, and maturity readiness. Without assessment, development becomes directionless. The second component is facilitation. At this stage, professionals begin developing communication capability, group engagement, learning delivery, presentation maturity, and foundational professional confidence. This creates the starting platform for capability evolution. The third component is learning systems. Now this is important. The ecosystem does not focus only on isolated learning events. It introduces structured learning architecture, frameworks, capability systems, behavioral intelligence, and business-oriented transformation thinking. And finally, in the Start Zone, TTT, Train the Trainer. At this stage, individuals begin transitioning from learners toward capability facilitators. But as discussed earlier, the ecosystem goes far beyond traditional facilitation. Now, if you observe the downward arrow carefully, you will notice that the ecosystem is designed as progressive capability ascension, meaning each level prepares professionals for deeper transformation maturity. Now we move into the second stage, growth zone. This is where the ecosystem begins becoming organizationally strategic. The first dimension here is competency systems. Professionals begin understanding competency mapping, behavioral indicators, role capability architecture, and workforce intelligence systems. This moves learning closer to organizational capability design. The second dimension is KP3. Now this is one of the ones in the ecosystem. At KP3, the focus shifts from knowledge toward behavioral transformation. Professionals begin working on live projects, implementation systems, organizational application, and measurable behavioral change. The next component is consulting. At this stage, professionals evolve beyond facilitation. They begin understanding organizational challenges, business linkage, capability gaps, transformation priorities, and operational intelligence. And finally, we move into diagnostics. Now this is where professionals begin developing organizational intelligence visibility. They learn how to analyze maturity, identify capability risks, evaluate workforce readiness, and understand transformation vulnerabilities. Now once professionals and organizations mature through the growth zone, the ecosystem moves into the next stage. Transformation zone. This is where capability evolution becomes enterprise impact oriented. The first dimension here is KP4. Now learning connects directly with ROI, business outcomes, productivity, performance transformation, and strategic organizational impact. This is where capability systems begin influencing measurable business transformation. The second dimension is organizational maturity. At this stage, the ecosystem evaluates leadership maturity, culture readiness, governance capability, execution discipline, and transformation sustainability. Because organizational growth without maturity creates instability. Then we move into ESG transformation. Now sustainability becomes integrated into organizational capability systems. Meaning, leadership, workforce, governance, and operations all begin aligning with responsible enterprise transformation. And finally in this zone, capability architecture. This is where organizations begin designing integrated workforce systems, leadership ecosystems, transformation models, and enterprise capability structures. Now observe the next progression carefully. The ecosystem finally moves into enterprise wisdom zone. This is the highest strategic capability layer. The first dimension here is enterprise intelligence. Organizations now begin operating through integrated intelligence systems. Meaning, leadership intelligence, workforce intelligence, governance intelligence, customer intelligence, and transformation intelligence. All become interconnected. The second dimension is transformation governance. This focuses on sustaining long-term organizational evolution, not temporary improvement. The third dimension is strategic workforce systems. Now workforce capability becomes a strategic enterprise asset. Organizations begin developing future workforce architecture, succession intelligence, leadership continuity, and organizational resilience systems. And finally, we arrive at the highest capability concept visible on the slide. Capability civilization architecture. Now this is one of the deepest philosophies inside the entire ecosystem. Because ultimately, the future will belong to organizations that can continuously evolve people, leadership, culture, capability, governance, and transformation systems. Together, this means organizations will increasingly function not as isolated businesses, but as evolving capability civilizations. Now if you observe the complete capability ascension map together, you will notice something very important. This is not merely a learning roadmap. It is a capability evolution architecture. A structured pathway guiding students, professionals, trainers, consultants, leaders, organizations, and enterprise systems through progressive transformation maturity. And this map becomes one of the central operating philosophies of the entire AugusTalent ecosystem. Because sustainable transformation does not happen through isolated learning. It happens through structured capability ascension. Now we move into one of the most scalable and future-oriented dimensions of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Please observe the title carefully. Digital Capability Cloud. And directly below that, The operating system of workforce transformation. Now this statement is extremely important. Because modern workforce transformation can no longer depend only on physical workshops, manual systems, spreadsheets, isolated reports, or disconnected learning interventions. Future organizations require integrated digital capability ecosystems. Systems capable of continuously measuring, tracking, analyzing, developing, and evolving workforce intelligence in real time. This is exactly why the Digital Capability Cloud was designed. Now this is not positioned merely as a learning management system. It is positioned as a workforce transformation operating system. A digital ecosystem integrating assessments, analytics, diagnostics, capability intelligence, learning architecture, and transformation governance. Now let us carefully examine the platform features visible on the screen. The first feature is assessments. This forms the foundation of the ecosystem. Because transformation begins with measurement visibility. The platform supports leadership assessments, behavioral assessments, competency diagnostics, culture maturity evaluations, ESG readiness systems, organizational intelligence frameworks, and capability mapping tools. This allows organizations to continuously understand their workforce capability landscape. The next feature is dashboards. Now this is extremely important. Modern organizations require real-time intelligence visibility. The dashboard architecture helps leaders visualize capability trends, leadership maturity, transformation progress, workforce readiness, organizational vulnerabilities, and capability development status. Because future leadership decisions will increasingly depend on capability analytics. Now we move into certifications. The ecosystem supports structured capability evolution pathways. This includes belt-based progression, specialization tracks, professional maturity systems, and competency-linked certification architecture. But importantly, certifications inside the ecosystem are not only knowledge validation. They represent capability maturity progression. Now we move into diagnostics. This layer supports deep organizational intelligence systems, including organizational maturity diagnostics, leadership intelligence, capability risk visibility, transformation readiness, culture audits, and governance evaluations. Because organizations cannot improve what they cannot diagnose. Next comes AI reports. This is one of the most future-ready dimensions of the platform. Artificial intelligence enables the ecosystem to generate faster, deeper, and more intelligent capability insights. The platform can support automated analytics, behavioral interpretation, transformation recommendations, capability trend analysis, and strategic workforce reporting. This helps organizations move from manual interpretation toward intelligent workforce intelligence systems. Now we move into capability heat maps. This is a highly strategic visualization layer. Capability heat maps help organizations identify high-risk zones, capability gaps, leadership dependency areas, workforce vulnerabilities, behavioral weaknesses, and transformation exposure points. In simple terms, the platform converts hidden capability risks into visible organizational intelligence. Now we move into transformation analytics. This layer focuses on measuring whether capability systems are actually producing behavioral change, performance improvement, execution enhancement, and business transformation outcomes. This directly connects with KP3 and KP4 transformation systems. Because future organizations will increasingly demand measurable transformation intelligence. Next comes benchmarking systems. This allows organizations to compare their capability maturity, leadership readiness, workforce intelligence, culture maturity, and transformation capability against industry standards or maturity benchmarks. Because organizational intelligence improves when comparative visibility increases. Now we move into learning pathways. This feature supports structured capability evolution, meaning individuals and organizations can follow guided development journeys, belt progression systems, specialization tracks, leadership pathways, and transformation maturity frameworks. This creates continuous learning architecture instead of isolated learning events. And finally, we arrive at consulting toolkits. This is extremely important for scalability. The platform supports trainers, consultants, and capability professionals through diagnostic frameworks, assessment systems, transformation templates, business linkage tools, competency mapping systems, and capability architecture models. This helps professionals evolve into capability consultants and transformation architects. Now, if you step back and observe all these features together, you will notice something very important. The Digital Capability Cloud is not a traditional LMS platform. It is an enterprise capability intelligence operating system. A digital ecosystem integrating workforce intelligence, organizational diagnostics, leadership maturity, transformation analytics, learning systems, governance visibility, and capability evolution architecture. Now, if we connect this platform with the earlier slides, the AugusTalent ecosystem becomes fully integrated. The frameworks provide intellectual architecture. The assessments provide organizational visibility. The KP systems provide transformation measurement. The belt architecture provides professional progression. And now the Digital Capability Cloud provides scalable digital infrastructure. This means the ecosystem is no longer dependent only on physical consulting or training delivery. It becomes a scalable capability intelligence platform. And this is extremely important for the future, because future organizations will increasingly require continuous, data-driven, AI-supported, digitally integrated capability transformation systems. Not occasional learning interventions, but always-on workforce intelligence ecosystems. The platform supports trainers, consultants, and capability professionals through diagnostic frameworks, assessment systems, transformation templates, business linkage tools, competency mapping systems, and capability architecture models. This helps professionals evolve into capability consultants and transformation architects. Now, if you step back and observe all these features together, you will notice something very important. The Digital Capability Cloud is not a traditional LMS platform. It is an enterprise capability intelligence operating system. A digital ecosystem integrating workforce intelligence, organizational diagnostics, leadership maturity, transformation analytics, learning systems, governance visibility, and capability evolution architecture. Now, if we connect this platform with the earlier slides, the AugusTalent ecosystem becomes fully integrated. The frameworks provide intellectual architecture. The assessments provide organizational visibility. The KP systems provide transformation measurement. The belt architecture provides professional progression. And now the Digital Capability Cloud provides scalable digital infrastructure. This means the ecosystem is no longer dependent only on physical consulting or training delivery. It becomes a scalable capability intelligence platform. And this is extremely important for the future, because future organizations will increasingly require continuous, data-driven, AI-supported, digitally integrated capability transformation systems. Not occasional learning interventions, but always-on workforce intelligence ecosystems. Now we arrive at one of the most strategic slides in the entire presentation. Please observe the title carefully. Investor and Enterprise Vision. And directly below that, the future of AugusTalent. Now this slide is extremely important because it explains where the ecosystem is ultimately heading. Everything we discussed in the earlier slides, the frameworks, the assessments, the diagnostics, the leadership systems, the maturity architecture, the transformation pathways, the digital platform, the belt systems, and the specialization tracks, are all converging toward one integrated future vision. And that vision is building the future infrastructure of workforce wisdom. Now please observe the capability layers visible on the screen carefully. The first layer is HR Tech. Now traditionally, HR Tech platforms have focused on attendance, payroll, engagement, recruitment, or learning management systems. But the future of HR Tech will increasingly move toward workforce intelligence systems. Meaning, platforms capable of understanding, capability maturity, leadership readiness, behavioral intelligence, organizational resilience, and future workforce sustainability. The AugusTalent ecosystem is positioned to evolve in this direction. Now we move into capability intelligence. This is one of the core differentiators of the ecosystem. Capability intelligence means continuously measuring, mapping, developing, and evolving organizational capability systems, including leadership capability, workforce readiness, behavioral maturity, execution capability, governance maturity, and transformation intelligence. Because future organizations will increasingly compete through capability ecosystems, not only through products or technology. Now we move into workforce transformation. This is a massive global opportunity. Organizations today are facing AI disruption, workforce evolution, Gen Z integration, hybrid work models, capability gaps, and rapid business transformation. This means organizations require continuous workforce evolution systems. The AugusTalent ecosystem supports structured workforce transformation architecture, including learning systems, capability pathways, maturity diagnostics, professional evolution, and organizational intelligence integration. Next comes organizational diagnostics. Now this is one of the strongest intellectual assets inside the ecosystem. The future enterprise will increasingly depend on diagnostic intelligence. Organizations need visibility into leadership maturity, capability gaps, culture health, transformation readiness, governance vulnerabilities, and execution risks. The AugusTalent ecosystem integrates assessment systems, analytics, maturity indexes, and capability diagnostics into one connected intelligence framework. Now we move into professional evolution. This is another major differentiator. The ecosystem is not only focused on organizations, it is also focused on long-term professional capability evolution. Through belt systems, specialization tracks, TTT ecosystems, consulting capability development, and transformation maturity architecture. This creates a scalable global professional ecosystem. Now we move into enterprise intelligence. This is where the ecosystem becomes strategically powerful. Enterprise intelligence means integrating leadership intelligence, workforce intelligence, organizational maturity, capability diagnostics, transformation analytics, and governance systems into one connected enterprise architecture. This is significantly beyond traditional training systems. Now we move into ESG Capability Architecture. As discussed earlier, future enterprises will increasingly be evaluated through sustainability maturity, governance capability, ethical transformation, and responsible enterprise systems. The AugusTalent ecosystem integrates ESG not as a compliance activity, but as organizational capability intelligence. This positions the ecosystem strongly for future enterprise transformation demands. And finally, we arrive at leadership analytics. Now this is becoming critically important globally. Organizations increasingly require visibility into leadership effectiveness, decision maturity, transformation capability, behavioral alignment, and execution impact. Leadership analytics transforms leadership development from subjective perception toward measurable organizational intelligence. Now please observe the final statement on the slide carefully. Building the future infrastructure of workforce wisdom. This is the long-term vision of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Not simply building courses. Not simply building certifications. Not simply building workshops. But building integrated capability infrastructure for future enterprises. Infrastructure capable of supporting leaders, professionals, organizations, boards, investors, workforce ecosystems, and transformation systems through connected intelligence architecture. Now, if you connect this vision with all the earlier slides, you will notice the complete picture emerging. The Corporate Wisdom Index provides the intelligence framework. The diagnostics provide organizational visibility. The maturity systems provide capability evolution. The digital cloud provides scalable infrastructure. The belt systems provide professional growth architecture. And now this investor vision positions the ecosystem as a scalable workforce intelligence and enterprise capability platform. This is why AugusTalent is not merely evolving as a consulting company, a training business, or a learning platform. It is evolving toward a capability intelligence infrastructure ecosystem for the future workforce economy. Now we arrive at a very important question. Who exactly is this ecosystem designed for? Please observe the title carefully. Who should join this ecosystem? Now this is extremely important because the AugusTalent ecosystem is not designed for casual learning consumption, random certification collection, or short-term motivational training. This ecosystem is designed for serious capability professionals. Professionals who want to evolve beyond traditional learning approaches toward organizational transformation intelligence. Now let us carefully examine the categories visible on the screen. The first category is experienced trainers. Now this is one of the most important audiences inside the ecosystem. Many trainers today possess excellent facilitation capability, but they often struggle with consulting exposure, organizational diagnostics, business linkage, transformation systems, and capability architecture. The AugusTalent ecosystem helps trainers evolve into capability consultants, meaning professionals capable of understanding business realities, leadership challenges, capability gaps, and transformation maturity systems. This creates a much higher value professional identity. Now we move into HR leaders. The future of HR is changing rapidly. HR is no longer only about recruitment, policy, or administration. Future HR leaders must understand workforce intelligence, organizational maturity, leadership capability, competency architecture, succession systems, and transformation readiness. The ecosystem helps HR professionals evolve into strategic workforce intelligence leaders. Now we move into consultants. Traditional consulting often focuses on specific projects or isolated interventions. But future consulting will increasingly require integrated capability intelligence. Consultants inside this ecosystem gain exposure to diagnostics, maturity systems, transformation frameworks, leadership architecture, organizational intelligence, and enterprise capability ecosystems. This helps consultants create deeper transformation impact. Next comes coaches. Now coaching globally is evolving rapidly. Organizations no longer need only motivational coaching. They increasingly require business-aligned coaching systems. The ecosystem helps coaches understand leadership maturity, behavioral transformation, organizational dynamics, workforce intelligence, and capability evolution. This allows coaching to become strategically integrated with organizational transformation. Now we move into CHROs. This is a highly strategic audience for the ecosystem, because future organizations will increasingly depend on strategic workforce architecture. CHROs today must understand AI workforce impact, future capability systems, organizational resilience, leadership pipelines, ESG capability, and transformation governance. The AugusTalent ecosystem provides level workforce intelligence frameworks. Next comes transformation specialists. This ecosystem is highly valuable for professionals working in change management, digital transformation, organizational development, capability evolution, or enterprise transformation initiatives. Because the ecosystem integrates leadership, culture, diagnostics, KP systems, maturity architecture, and transformation intelligence. This creates a complete transformation capability ecosystem. Now we move into leadership facilitators. Traditional leadership facilitation often focuses on communication, motivation, or team building. But future leadership facilitation requires systems thinking, organizational maturity understanding, capability intelligence, and business transformation integration. This ecosystem helps leadership facilitators evolve into leadership architecture professionals. Now we move into ESG professionals. This is becoming increasingly important globally. Organizations today require professionals who understand sustainability transformation, governance intelligence, ethical capability, ESG maturity, and responsible enterprise systems. The ecosystem integrates ESG directly into organizational capability intelligence architecture. This creates future-ready ESG transformation capability. Now we move into career counselors. Traditionally, career counseling focused mainly on academic direction or job guidance. But future career ecosystems require employability intelligence, future workforce readiness, behavioral maturity, corporate adaptation, and professional capability development. The campus to corporate architecture supports future-ready career transformation systems. And finally, we arrive at business growth consultants. This includes professionals working in sales transformation, customer experience, organizational growth, dealership capability, business expansion, and revenue intelligence. The ecosystem helps these professionals integrate behavioral intelligence, customer psychology, trust systems, leadership maturity, and capability transformation into business growth architecture. Now, if you observe all these professional categories together, you will notice something very important. This ecosystem is not designed for isolated learning. It is designed for capability evolution. The AugusTalent ecosystem is building a global network of trainers, consultants, leaders, coaches, HR professionals, ESG specialists, career architects, and transformation experts who can collectively support future organizational evolution. Now, if we connect this slide with the earlier architecture, the ecosystem becomes fully scalable. The frameworks provide intellectual depth. The diagnostics provide organizational intelligence. The digital cloud provides technology infrastructure. The belt systems provide professional progression. And now this ecosystem creates a global capability partner network. Because future organizations will increasingly require professionals capable of integrating learning, leadership, business, culture, technology, and transformation into one connected capability intelligence ecosystem. Now we arrive at one of the most important realization slides in the entire presentation. Please observe the title carefully. The Big Transformation. Now this slide represents the fundamental identity shift of the entire AugusTalent ecosystem. Everything we explored in the previous slides, the Corporate Wisdom Index, organizational diagnostics, leadership architecture, KP transformation systems, Matrioska organization, ESG intelligence, Digital Capability Cloud, Professional Evolution Systems, and Workforce Intelligence Frameworks. All lead toward one very important conclusion. Please now observe the statements visible on the screen carefully. We are not building another training company. Now this is extremely important, because the world already has thousands of training companies. Organizations already have access to courses, workshops, webinars, content platforms, and certifications. But despite all this learning infrastructure, organizations still struggle with execution gaps, leadership immaturity, capability fragmentation, transformation failure, and workforce misalignment. This means, the problem is not lack of training. The problem is lack of integrated capability intelligence. Now let us move into the second statement. We are not building another coaching academy. Coaching is valuable, but coaching alone cannot transform organizations sustainably. Organizations require systems, diagnostics, maturity architecture, leadership intelligence, capability mapping, governance integration, and transformation measurement. The AugusTalent ecosystem goes beyond individual inspiration. It focuses on organizational evolution architecture. Now let us move into the third statement. We are not building another certification institute. Now this is another major difference. The world already has millions of certifications. But certifications alone do not guarantee capability maturity. A person may collect certificates, yet still lack business understanding, organizational intelligence, transformation capability, leadership maturity, or execution discipline. That is why the AugusTalent ecosystem focuses not merely on credential accumulation. It focuses on capability evolution. This is why the belt architecture, specialization tracks, KP systems, and transformation pathways all emphasize real capability maturity. Now please observe the final statement on the slide very carefully. We are building a corporate wisdom and capability intelligence ecosystem. This single statement represents the complete strategic identity of AugusTalent. Now let us break this down carefully. Corporate wisdom. This means helping organizations develop better decision-making, leadership maturity, organizational intelligence, governance capability, workforce alignment, and long-term transformation resilience. And then, capability intelligence. This means continuously measuring, developing, and evolving human capability, leadership systems, organizational maturity, behavioral intelligence, execution readiness, and workforce transformation architecture. And finally, ecosystem. This is extremely important, because AugusTalent is not building isolated programs. It is building an interconnected capability ecosystem integrating frameworks, assessments, diagnostics, books, platforms, leadership systems, professional evolution pathways, consulting architecture, and enterprise intelligence infrastructure. Now if you connect this final realization with everything discussed earlier, the complete picture becomes visible. The Corporate Wisdom Index provides enterprise intelligence architecture. OCA-OMI measures organizational maturity. KP systems measure business transformation impact. Matrioska organization provides systems thinking architecture. The BELT system creates professional capability evolution. The Digital Capability Cloud provides technology scalability. And the entire ecosystem collectively builds a workforce transformation and enterprise capability infrastructure. Now this is why AugusTalent is not positioning itself inside the traditional training industry. It is creating a new category. A category focused on organizational wisdom, workforce intelligence, enterprise maturity, leadership capability, transformation systems, and future workforce evolution. Because the organizations of the future will not compete only through products, technology, or certifications. They will compete through capability intelligence and organizational wisdom. Now we arrive at the final reflection of this entire journey. Please observe the title carefully. Final thought. Everything we explored throughout this presentation, the frameworks, the diagnostics, the leadership systems, the maturity architecture, the capability intelligence models, the workforce transformation systems, the digital capability cloud, and the corporate wisdom index, ultimately lead toward one very important realization. Please now look carefully at the statements visible on the screen. The future belongs to organizations that can learn faster. Now this is extremely important, because the future business environment is changing continuously. Technology is evolving rapidly. AI is transforming industries. Customer expectations are changing. Workforce behavior is evolving. Business models are shifting. In such an environment, organizations that stop learning eventually stop evolving. But future learning is not only about consuming information. It is about developing adaptive intelligence. Now let us move into the second statement. Adapt faster. Future organizations must continuously adapt to market disruption, technology evolution, economic uncertainty, ESG expectations, and workforce transformation. Organizations that resist adaptation gradually become operationally irrelevant. Adaptability is no longer optional. It is becoming a survival capability. Now we move into transform faster. Now transformation is different from change. Change may be temporary, but transformation alters culture, mindset, capability systems, leadership behavior, organizational intelligence, and business operating models. Future organizations will increasingly require continuous transformation capability, not occasional improvement projects. Now we arrive at develop wiser leadership. This may become one of the most important organizational differentiators in the future. Because future leadership requires much more than authority or technical expertise. Future leaders must possess systems thinking, emotional intelligence, adaptability, governance maturity, ethical capability, transformation wisdom, and long-term organizational thinking. Because leadership capability ultimately shapes organizational destiny. Now we move into build stronger capability systems. This is one of the core philosophies of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Future organizations will increasingly compete through capability infrastructure. Meaning, how effectively organizations develop people, leadership, culture, execution systems, governance maturity, and transformation intelligence. Organizations with weak capability systems may grow temporarily, but struggle to sustain transformation over time. Now we arrive at create intelligent workforce ecosystems. This is one of the defining themes of the future workforce economy. The future workforce is no longer static. Organizations must now manage multi-generational workforces, AI integration, hybrid ecosystems, continuous learning, rapid capability shifts, and global transformation pressure. This means organizations require intelligent workforce ecosystems. Systems capable of continuously measuring, developing, aligning, and evolving human capability. Now please observe the final statement on the slide carefully. The future belongs to corporate wisdom. This single statement summarizes the entire philosophy of the AugusTalent ecosystem. Because in the future, organizations will not succeed only because they possess technology, products, or certifications. They will succeed because they develop better organizational intelligence, stronger leadership maturity, deeper workforce capability, greater adaptability, higher governance wisdom, and sustainable transformation systems. Corporate wisdom means the collective intelligence of an organization to learn, adapt, lead, transform, and evolve continuously. And this is exactly what the AugusTalent ecosystem is ultimately designed to build. Not temporary learning activity, but sustainable organizational wisdom. Now, as we conclude this presentation, the invitation is simple. The future workforce economy will belong to organizations and professionals who continuously evolve their capability intelligence, leadership maturity, organizational resilience, and transformation wisdom. And the AugusTalent ecosystem is designed to support that journey. From learning to wisdom, from training to transformation, from capability to organizational evolution.
As we come to the end of this presentation, I would like to sincerely thank each one of you for being part of this journey. Please observe the final message on the screen carefully. AugusTalent Corporate Wisdom Index. And directly below that, Building Capability Intelligence for the Future Workforce. This statement represents the core mission of the entire ecosystem. Throughout this webinar, we explored how organizations are evolving beyond traditional training systems toward integrated capability intelligence ecosystems. We explored corporate wisdom, organizational maturity, leadership architecture, workforce transformation, capability diagnostics, ESG intelligence, professional evolution systems, and enterprise transformation frameworks. And the most important realization is this: the future will increasingly belong to organizations that can learn faster, adapt faster, transform faster, and continuously evolve their workforce capability systems. Because future competitiveness will no longer depend only on technology, products, or certifications. It will increasingly depend on organizational wisdom, leadership maturity, workforce intelligence, and transformation capability. That is exactly what the AugusTalent ecosystem is designed to support. Now please observe the website visible on the screen: www.augustalent.com. This platform represents the beginning of a much larger capability transformation journey. A journey integrating frameworks, diagnostics, digital capability systems, professional evolution pathways, enterprise intelligence architecture, and workforce transformation ecosystems. And finally, please observe the connection pathways mentioned below. LinkedIn, Global Capability Partner Network, Workforce Transformation Ecosystem. Because this vision is not designed to remain limited to one organization, one geography, or one industry. The vision is to gradually build a global ecosystem of leaders, trainers, consultants, HR professionals, capability architects, ESG specialists, career transformation experts, and enterprise intelligence professionals, who collectively contribute toward building wiser organizations and future-ready workforce systems. As we conclude, I would like to leave you with one final thought. The future of organizations will not be defined only by what they produce. The future will increasingly be defined by how intelligently they evolve their people, their leadership, their culture, their capability systems, and their organizational wisdom. Thank you once again for your time, your attention, and your openness to this journey. We look forward to building the future of capability intelligence together. Thank you.